Hey all, it's Clementine here. Hey up, I hope you're well. Posting this video as part of MS Awareness Week and part of my ongoing MS Awareness activities when I had a little sit down for MS Society's March mashup with the one Nina Sparks. She's an absolute diamond and she's a Para-Snowboarder. She's currently competing for the Great British team, hoping to see her in a future Olympics, and we talk. She's a fellow MS sufferer as I am. So we talk all things MS and para-snowboarding, the politics around it all, and getting into the sport, and even getting the sport recognised in the first place. I hope you enjoy. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We post content every week. We release a combination of gaming shorts, charity streams, and chatting with other MSs in the community. So anything you can do, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, it all helps. Thank you so much. So I suppose we've kind of just jumped straight into chatting. This is actually the first time definitely the first time you and I have had a one-on-one, but I think it's like one of the first times that I've properly got to chat to you. It's obviously mostly just like via text and in one of our various many groups that we have.
WhatsApp group, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. I think I'm in about 20 sub-MS related groups on WhatsApp now. It's unreal. It's taken over my life, and now I stream for MS. It's just like, MS is just my life now. But you know, there are worse things. I think one of the things I appreciate the most about MS is some of the amazing people I've got to meet. I always say I'd rather not have MS, but as long as I've got it, I'm glad to know the people that I've been lucky enough to meet so far, and you know, I would include you in that most certainly. I genuinely find you an inspiration. So I suppose, you know, being a bit formal, obviously I know stuff, but would you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and about your sport?
Okay, so I'm Nina Sparks. I'm a para-snowboarder for Great Britain. I'm currently the only female on the team, which is quite cool. And yeah, so this is my first season competing in para-snowboard. I was only classified in November, and since then I've done 4 Europa Cup races, and I've podiumed in 3 of them. I've also then done my first World Cup race, and I came last. And then in January I was selected by GB Snow Sports to go to the Para Snow Sports World Championships, representing para snowboard, and I came 6th, which is awesome. So a very successful first season. So that's me.
And how old are you again, Nina? Remind me. You're 20.
I'm actually 31.
Are you? I thought you were younger than that, because so I know we had a bit of a discussion around Olympics or future potential Olympics. Is that something you're keen to pursue? Because it's not something that Great Britain has ever had a presence in. We physically don't have a category for women, if I'm correct in that, do we?
We do. So this year at Beijing, so we just literally had the Beijing Paralympics, and we had one category for women. We had the LL2, which is actually the category that I'm classified into.
Yeah.
And the LL1 women were combined within that. There were 2 women who are classified as LL1, and they were included in LL2. But the upper limb category for women wasn't included in Beijing. But we are all hoping that for the next Winter Paralympics, all 3 classes for women will be back, which should be awesome if it happens. Yeah, it'd be
so
really great.
Basically in 4 years you think you'll be gunning for a place at the Olympics on the GB team then, for the Paralympic team?
I hope so. That's kind of my goal. So that'd be
it's a lofty goal, but we believe in you.
Thank you.
Because I remember there being, I won't go into it too much because I think it's one of my later questions, but there was a bit of, should we say, controversy / difficulty with certain athletes physically getting through, which is why there was a need to combine athletes. But I saw that obviously there was quite a bit of progress with certain athletes being granted the ability to race, whereas they were previously told they weren't going to. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm not sure exactly when it happens, but before each kind of games, they have to make a decision on whether to have a category and a medal event included. And sadly, for the LL1 women and the upper limb women, there hadn't been enough women racing in previous seasons to allow the organisers of Beijing to think, oh yeah, we'll run that category. And so two of the athletes who are women, who are LL1 women, they had to basically fight for their place to represent their disability in the Beijing Paralympics. And they were then combined with my class. So they actually ended up competing in a harder class, if that makes sense. Okay. So they are more disabled, and they were competing.
Right. Up. Okay.
But yeah, they were both able to compete, and actually they both actually won gold medals in Beijing, which was amazing.
You're friends with one of the women that we're talking about here, aren't you? Like you're.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of friends with both of them.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, amazing. I suppose it's a small clique, isn't it? Like there's not terribly many people competing in that sphere, so I suppose you all end up pretty tight. You've got to practice at more or less the same places.
Yeah, we all end up kind of just being with each other, obviously for races and stuff, and yet we all get to know each other. And so one of the women has MS, Cecile from France, and the other woman is Brenna from the US, and she's amazing. She's a above knee amputee. So yeah, both of them, I kind of see as huge inspirations for me within the sport. And so the fact that all this had been going on, it was just amazing to kind of be there when they both got their kind of, they were then granted permission to go to Beijing. And yeah, it was awesome. And we were actually at the World Champs when they found that out.
I bet there was a big celebration going on that night.
So I was in the hotel room next to Brenna, and I just heard.
I remember you saying this.
I knew that that was the day she'd find out, and we were obviously off training on the mountain, and then we were back in the hotel in the evening, and I just heard this almighty scream from the room next door, and I was like, oh my god, what's happened? Has she fallen over?
Is it a good scream?
And then I thought, oh wait, no, it's today. And I literally opened my hotel room door, popped my head out the door. At the same time, she opened her door and was like, oh my god! And
that's amazing. That must have been such a gratifying moment as well.
We both went straight down to the hotel lobby and got a glass of Prosecco, because that in itself was an absolutely enormous breakthrough within parasport. The fact that she'd taken the IPC to court and she'd won, and it's just incredible.
kind of groundbreaking. And obviously I suppose one of the things that I find inspirational about you and the other athletes that you're talking about is you're laying the groundwork for future generations as well. Like you're breaking ground that people haven't really broken before, as that awareness is being raised and as it's becoming more and more normalized. So one of the things I haven't ever really asked you about was, were you pursuing a career in snowboarding prior to your diagnosis, or were you going through diagnosis before it? And go on.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I was. So I'd been training for... we'll go on winter seasons. So last winter season was when I got diagnosed. And so the 2 winters before that, I had been out in Austria training with a company to kind of compete in snowboard cross. And I'd had a couple of injuries and obviously, not a spring chicken anymore. And so I got to the point where I thought, okay, well, I'm probably not going to compete. But one of the things that I kind of do is I've worked in schools, I've looked after kids, I'm a scout leader. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is obviously working with young people. And so an opportunity came up last season for me to go back to the same training program that I'd been training with, but as a house parent and looking after under 18 athletes while they're living out in the mountains, training, trying to get their schoolwork done, and then obviously going back into school when they're not in Austria. And so that's kind of the path I was going down in terms of my career. I was like, right, this is what I want to do. I want to help support these up and coming athletes from GB who, still obviously have to do school and stuff, and they're under 18, and, be their kind of, effectively, be their house mum. And then, yeah, I had this really bad relapse, as we know it now.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of ended up with MS. And then at that point, I was like, oh, hang on. Maybe I could, maybe I could become a para snowboarder. And that is exactly what I've done.
Yeah, exactly. So, because my next bit was going to be, did it ever make you call into question continuing? Like, did you ever think, right, well, that's just not going to be on the cards for me anymore? Was that something that went through your mind, or did it almost galvanize you to do the opposite and go, screw this, I'm not letting MS stop me? Like, what was your attitude towards it?
I think because when it happened, I was in Austria at the time, and I was living in a house full of people who were snowboarding, and the mountains were on my doorstep. That kind of kept me going, and I was like, right, okay, well, I'm just gonna try and figure out how to snowboard when I can't feel my legs, and etc. But if I'd been in the UK at that point in time, obviously I'd have been in the middle of a COVID lockdown. But yeah, I think it would have been much more difficult for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna carry on snowboarding. I think because of the environment that I was in, it was like, well, I'm here to snowboard, so let's just crack on with it then.
Fair. Okay. So we've kind of touched on it a little bit already. We've kind of half answered this one, but I was wanting to say, like, what sort of barriers and shortcomings have you encountered in your sporting career to date in regards to, like that accessibility to disabled athletes?
So I think if we kind of broaden it from disabled athletes to start with and look at snow sports athletes,
okay,
the obvious one, the obvious thing is the fact that we are from Great Britain, which is well known for its lack of mountains. And,
unless you go to Scotland, and that's a problem in of itself.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of where it starts, really, is that actually as a snow sports athlete, we're already at quite a big disadvantage because our country doesn't have mountains. And, like the Austrians would go to school and then after school, oh yeah, I'll just do a couple of laps up the mountain.
Yeah.
That's not in our lifestyle. So already these countries are, miles ahead of us in terms of the mileage they're getting on their snowboards, all of that. So I'd say that's the first big barrier, is that being a snow sports athlete from Great Britain is already like, oh wow, okay, that's what you do. It's not as common as something like swimming and hockey.
Yeah.
And then in terms of disability, again, I think obviously I was doing snowboarding before I got my disability, so I kind of just got on with it. But I think, yeah, there's maybe that taboo around, oh, I don't know, can I do this as a disabled person? Like, snow slippery, all of that. But certainly, there are opportunities within the UK on the dry slopes, on the snow domes. There are opportunities for disabled people, and that's something that a charity called DSUK, oh, what did it stand for? I think Disabled Snow Sports UK. Okay. They're a great charity, and yeah, they're doing some really great things to try and get as many people involved in snow sports as possible. Yeah, and then I suppose the last barrier is probably actually just being a woman. So certainly within para snowboard, the field is very, very small. And if you look at snow sports disciplines, or like all snow sports disciplines, certainly the field is smaller within women than men, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, as someone who sees it from the inside out, what needs to be done to get sort of disabled and para sports to be like more on the map and into the mainstream? We've seen sort of over the years, I feel like programs like The Last Leg, for instance, did loads to get Paralympic sort of coverage on the up sort of thing by taking a bit of a different spin from the traditional media, which I thought was great. But as an athlete, what do you think needs to be done in order to kind of get it more there to, we all know with the viewership comes the sponsors, the funding, to make sure that you guys are looked after the way you should be, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've kind of said it there, but yeah, definitely more media focus and people kind of seeing us as athletes, just the same as you see an able-bodied athlete, and yeah, all the kind of hype around able-bodied within snow sports, you know, World Cup races and World Championship races, they're kind of the pinnacle. You know, they're the big events that happen kind of every year, every couple of years, and they get a lot of coverage, a lot of media, and you know, all of that hype. And then para sports, you know, maybe get slightly less. And then I kind of feel like every 4 years, or I suppose it's every two if you count the summer sports as well, everyone kind of remembers, oh yeah, para sports exist. Oh yeah, Paralympics. So yeah, there definitely needs to be, I think, just a bit more of a general, like, we are here all the time. We are doing this every year. You know, we're building on our results so that in 4 years' time, we can do the Paralympics. And if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. So, as a public figure slash athlete who perhaps challenges the assumptions that people have about what a person with MS looks like, or what level of disability people assume that we have, do you feel like there's any kind of responsibility or, you know, anything put on you to, you know, be representing the community as that someone who could be in the public eye? Like, do you feel that sort of like, oh, I don't want to say the word pressure, I don't want to be putting pressure on you by saying the word pressure, you know what I mean, just because there is that sort of public facing eye of what people think MS is to what it actually is. I think we speak to any person with MS, they will have a story about where someone's misjudged their disability or whatever. I think Kadina Cox is an incredible example of just how toxic the response can be, and I think the majority of it must be rooted in a lack of information. But what pressure does that then put on you as an athlete, do you feel?
God, sorry, that was a huge
I know, I made that too meaty and I started talking too much, so I do apologise. You can tell it's my first time.
You stunned me when you were like, as a public figure, and I was like, oh my god, wait, what?
Am I?
I'm a public figure?
I mean, I think you're a public figure when I've literally watched you on TV. You know what I mean? I've watched you race on TV. You're a public figure.
It was a YouTube stream. It was a YouTube stream. That's another thing, you know, like they'll do a YouTube stream for something like the Paralympics, but like, I kid you not, I was struggling to get a live stream of the Paralympics to watch my teammates. Yet the Olympics was on the TV all hours of the day. It's so ridiculous.
Like three of the channels even.
Yeah. Sorry, going back to your question. Can you
sorry. So basically just saying, like, as someone who has to almost face the public a little bit, at least, you know, not too much maybe, I don't know how much your exposure is, I'm not in your shoes, but as someone who is being publicly seen as having MS, how do you feel it is in terms of like how people interpret your level of disability? Does that translate to what MS is? Because the reason I brought up Kadina Cox is people routinely go, oh well, people with MS are in wheelchairs or walking aids, which obviously some of them are. Kadina is someone who, you know, thankfully is not someone who, you know, she's able to do the things that she does. She was an athlete before MS, she's continued to be an athlete after, much like yourself. But people misinterpret what MS looks like because that's I think she's been a great example of, she's kind of owned it and sort of tried to represent the community. And just, I suppose I'm asking, do you feel like as you rise through the ranks, you're going to have sort of almost similar pressures placed upon you?
Yeah, I mean, when I kind of was first diagnosed, there was that kind of, oh, okay, I've got this thing going on inside me, but like nobody can see this. And, you know, I kind of thought that people might think I was making it up. You know, oh yeah, my feet are numb. Like, you're just joking. Like, that's not serious, because they couldn't see it. And then I actually developed foot drop and started wearing a ankle foot orthosis, so an AFO for short. And that happened like the beginning of June. And anyone that knows me knows that in the summer I'm basically wearing shorts, like come rain or shine. So during the summer I was wearing my AFO and my shorts, and I kind of was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm at peace with this, because, you know, I had a visible, you know, like I had visibly something wrong with me. So if that makes sense. And I know it sounds terrible, but actually for me, that really helped, because I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to try and explain to people why I'm walking with a limp
It was
or
almost
whatever.
your version of having a crutch.
Yeah, exactly. There was like something physically that they could see. But obviously, as the winter months appeared, I start wearing trousers, and
That's what one does in the winter.
it's suddenly less visible, and
Yeah.
I'll walk around, I'll limp my way around the supermarket, and nobody will really know why, because obviously they can't see anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of being a visible person with MS, I'm quite open about. I'm happy to kind of say how MS affects me, and I'm quite happy to, if somebody asked me and kind of came up to me and said, "Oh, hello, you've got MS. How does it affect you and stuff?" I'd be more than happy to tell them about it. And yeah, I suppose for me, having MS, like I'm kind of proud to have MS, because it meant I could be classified as a para-snowboarder, and that's awesome. And so for me, that was like, I don't know, the best thing about having MS, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think snowboarding is one of those sports that's really started to capture people's attentions over the years. I remember when I started seeing more coverage about the Winter Olympics in general, let alone the Paralympics, things like the snowboard cross and the slalom were really starting to like catch people's imaginations as, oh, I've not really had much exposure to this sport before, but it's really exciting and it's really fun to watch. So hopefully that will just continue, and obviously the whole point of this is that we'll see more and more of that for Paralympians or para athletes like yourself. I suppose my previous point kind of led into my next one, and it's always the horrible one to talk about, is receiving hate as a result of being in that public eye, or I suppose what we've already been talking about in terms of that lack of understanding. And I'm aware from a couple of conversations you and I have had that you have experienced that, unfortunately, which I'm really sad to hear about. How do you deal with that? Like, there's no surefire way of saying, oh, you just deal with it in this way. Is it? It's different for every situation, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we had been making this podcast last week, I'd be like, I don't know, I've never experienced this, but actually, yeah, like you say, I have recently experienced some hate, and yeah, I suppose it's obviously you've got to not take it to heart, which is very tough if it's somebody attacking, I suppose, you or like your kind of your thing. So for me, it was somebody attacking para sports, and I kind of just looked at it and was like, right, okay, hang on, this person clearly needs educating, clearly has no understanding of what it's like to be a disabled person, and then a disabled person doing sport on top of that. Not only do we have a disability that means we struggle with daily life, we then go and throw ourselves down a mountain as well.
Because it's fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we go and do that as well. And yeah, I mean, I kind of just thought, well, okay, this person has no idea what it's like to snowboard with a disability. So I'm just going to crack on doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to try and improve every day like I have been doing. And yeah, I'll, rub my medal in their face later, kind of thing.
I think that's probably the best attitude towards it, is just, almost silence them with your success, I suppose, is the best thing. But going back to who I said before about Kadina Cox, I mean, some of the things I see written and spoken about, like calling her a fraud and all the rest of it, and like you've correctly said, I think a lot of it is just rooted in a lack of education, a lack of understanding. Unfortunately, there are also other prejudices at work, which I unfortunately was exposed to, which I was really shocked by, because I remember responding publicly to a comment about Kadina, sort of trying to be like, I have a mess, I can tell you a little bit about this and why what you're saying is completely and utterly inaccurate. That person's response was to slide into my DMs with, first of all, abuse, and I was like, oh wow, so you're just a very angry, unpleasant person. I think it took 3 messages to find out that actually the person was prejudiced, they were racist, they couldn't stand the fact that a phenomenal black disabled athlete was essentially, let's for lack of a better word, better than them. That's what it was rooted in, and it became very, very obvious in a very short exchange. And I will have to admit my very, very white privilege here, that obviously I've never really experienced that kind of thing. And to see it on just such a blatant scale and have certain slurs that I don't think I've ever actually heard spoken aloud before, I was genuinely shocked. I've never seen behaviour like that. I was just like, wow, like, this woman's a public figure and a national treasure. She's literally brought home gold for our country against so many things holding her back, and you're just there trying to tear her down. Who benefits from that?
I think a lot of the hate comes from like a lack of education and lack of understanding, and potentially even a lack of exposure to those people. So so for example, for me, so I have, long before I was disabled myself, and long before I was, a para-snowboarder, I've been aware of the Paralympics. And I actually I was raised in Buckinghamshire, and I live in Buckinghamshire. And Buckinghamshire is famously known, according to the road signs, as the birthplace of the Paralympics.
Okay.
Because Stoke Mandeville Hospital, which is the hospital I'm under for my MS, was where it all started, in the spinal unit. And the doctor who started the Paralympics, so I'm going to name drop, Sir Ludwig Gutmann.
That's a great name.
Yeah, amazing. There's a statue of him outside Stoke Mandeville Hospital. And
he sounds like someone who deserves a statue with that name alone.
Yeah, absolutely. He started the Paralympics, and for me, being someone that was from Bucks, it was just something that I knew about. I was always aware of it.
Okay.
And it was just something that for me was just part of, the Paralympics started in Bucks. Okay. And then obviously we had London 2012, which really brought the Paralympics, I think, to light. Like, that was a huge event and really put Great Britain in the spotlight. And I think Britain is quite an understanding country in terms of disability and Paralympics. There are some countries that, like, they shun disabled people. They have no empathy at all. So I think we're doing okay. There's definitely more education to be done, but certainly Great Britain is doing better than some countries. Oh yeah. For sure.
So I just wanted to touch a little bit on symptoms without going too heavy into it, because I feel like we've covered some fairly heavy topics already. So, some of the most common symptoms that a lot of MS has experienced, things like fatigue, tremors, pains. How do you find that you manage symptoms and burnout from exercise? I know personally, I only have an on-off love-hate relationship with exercise, but I always have problems whenever I exercise. So, if I'm weightlifting or if I overdo it, I get tremors in my left hand when I can't control it. I'll get pain in my left leg and I'll lose mobility for a few days. How do you manage those how do you juggle that with all the training that you must have to do?
It's very much a daily basis, really. If I wake up and feel like I've been run over by a bus, I will not do much that day. But if I wake up and I feel like I've got energy, I'll be like, okay, right, let's go and do something. And I'm fully aware that going and doing something may leave me exhausted, or weirdly, it may kind of perk me up more. So I actually went to the gym. I went snowboarding today, and I went to the gym this evening, and somehow I'm still awake. But I don't know whether tomorrow I'm going to be, half asleep or in pain or what. So it's very much hit and miss.
Take every day
I was diagnosed a year ago, actually. So I'm still in the kind of, I don't know, that kind of period of, I don't know what happens, why it happens, how it happened. Like,
I'm still a bit almost learning your own disability.
I don't really know. But I'm sure, as time goes on, I'm sure maybe like I'll start to have a bit more of a pattern and a little bit more of an understanding. And I mean, that's probably something that I'll be working with my coaches on when we've figured out kind of how like what exercise does to me, if that makes sense. But at the moment, touch wood, I'm just kind of, yeah, it seems to be all right. And yeah, I'm just kind of taking it day by day, really.
Day by day.
Yeah.
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 I suppose, like you say, a year into it, like if I go back and think of myself only a year into MS, I still very much had my head in the sand because, so I had my first, so it's 3 years for me now. So it was the February of 2017? No, well, that's more than that.
That's more than 3 years.
Yeah, that's more than 3 years. No, that's when I got the first telltale signs looking back that we've later attributed to the MS. But when I had my first proper neurological incident was in the February of 2019. And I had my first proper relapse around that time. But then I completely went into remission. So it wasn't until the September of that year, so like more than 6 months, that I had a full proper relapse. Because essentially once I was diagnosed, they basically said, oh well, let's just see how it goes. You might be fine, you might not be. We've not got any evidence to suggest otherwise, so let's just see what happens. Unfortunately, when I had a relapse, it's left me with permanent nerve damage. So like my leg will never be 100% again. I will never get the fitness level that I had before. And that's okay. I'm still learning how to adapt within my means, I suppose. But I've definitely spent a lot of time looking inwards and sort of getting to know my body and know its limitations and when I've pushed too far. And so, like you say, you kind of just got to plan as well as you can for each day with a bit of flexibility and a buffer. You just give yourself lots and lots of buffers for everything you do. I think it's the most sensible thing you can do, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, certainly for me, the majority of my training I'm doing is just me by myself. So it's not like I'm with a huge group of people and I'm, the slow one at the back, or, it's not like I'm kind of cancelling training sessions with another person or something. So at the moment, I'm very much just kind of like, okay, if I'm tired today, I'll do this, and it's not affecting anyone else. So I'm just kind of getting on with it. But I mean, if I had a large group of people I was training with, then maybe I might start to see how it affects things a bit more, if that makes sense. But at the moment, I can take breaks on the mountain when I need to, like, oh, my legs are getting a bit tired, okay, I'll sit down for a bit. And it's not, like, it doesn't affect anyone else, me doing that. So, yeah, there we go, really.
Fair enough. I want to ask a bit about your tastes now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So, in terms of snowboarding, what's the perfect conditions when you're hitting the powder?
Oh, I don't know. I had a bad experience in powder last year, so I'm a little bit dubious. I'd say my perfect conditions are blue skies, like we have currently.
I know, right? Lucky.
But decent snow cover, not like we have currently. Currently, it's like mashed potatoes out there. It hasn't snowed since like the last week of February.
Okay, so it's clinging on for dear life.
Yeah, I think we're forecast on next week. But yeah, I suppose you've got decent snow and like a nice kind of freshly piste. And yeah, just nice, like not too hot that you're like sweating, but not cold that you're in the case of me, your entire body goes numb. So somewhere in between. And just nice smooth snow. Yeah.
Fair. And do you prefer to shred, ride, or cruise when you're snowboarding? What kind of camp do you sit in?
What? What have you been looking up? All the snowboard lingo.
Yeah. That's me trying to do my due diligence and learn a bit about snowboarding, so I had snowboarding terms. I'm sorry if I've done it wrong.
No, that's fine. I suppose I'd probably ride.
Okay.
Wait, what was the third one? Shred, ride, and...
Cruise.
Oh, no, I'd say I ride. Yeah.
You ride. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there's me trying to go for some lingo, and it just completely backfired.
Come on, well, stop. Come at me with your snowboard lingo.
Yeah, no, that's it. What's your best pre-workout or pre-race meal, and why?
Oh, okay. I've been thinking about this. So, So I suppose snowboarding happens during the day. So my pre-workout meal for snowboarding is breakfast. And like, oh, I mean, yeah, breakfast is a great meal. There's so many possibilities. When I'm just kind of living by myself, it's a bowl of cereal. But I've stayed in some hotels over this season for races and competitions, and I mean, we've had breakfast buffets where there's been fruit, yogurt, lots of pastries, waffles, bacon. Like, the world is your oyster. I mean, breakfast is an amazing meal. And we went to the Netherlands for like classification. So my first event was the Netherlands, and they have like the chocolate sprinkles that they put on bread. It's called a hagelslag. Like, oh, that stuff is great. I love that stuff.
I mean, it sounds amazing.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm good friends with some of the Dutch guys, and they brought me a couple of boxes last time we went to a race.
So it's all about who you know, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, breakfast is just, such a varied meal. You can do so much with it.
It just sounds like all the carbo loading before a race, basically.
Yeah. And then, I mean, in terms of pre-gym, I actually don't like to eat massive amounts before I go to the gym. Like, I don't know. I don't like to be too full before I do gym stuff.
Yeah, no. I always have some space.
That might be my downfall. Who knows? That might be my problem. But yeah, no, I'm not really a big eater before the gym. But certainly before I go snowboarding, like, there's no way I'm not having breakfast. So, yeah.
See, I've always been like, I know that you get people who go to the gym in different camps. Some people are like, oh, you should go first thing in the morning before you've eaten anything. So, like, you're doing it whilst you're on a fast and you're really going to burn. And I'm like, that sounds like my idea of hell. That is taking something I love and making it even more painful and unpleasant than it already was. Like, food is fuel. I want food in my stomach, but I want it to have been a good enough time that when I'm lifting weights, I ain't going to vomit all over myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm a firm evening gymmer or workout, or like after work sort of thing is usually when I would like to go, because that fits better with my day and around work, and it means that I've had some fuel and I've got some energy to burn. I don't understand people who go first thing in the morning. Like, fair play to you if you can do it. I'm not one of you.
Nah, me neither. No thanks. I like sleep.
Oh god, yeah. Like, getting up at 5 a.m. for the gym is not the one. It is absolutely not. I don't get up at 5
a.m. for anything, unless I'm traveling.
That's good to know. That is good to know. I've pretty much got through all my questions, so I suppose, do you have any advice for any of the MSs or even budding athletes out there?
I suppose, like, definitely with, like, sport and exercise, you've definitely got to find your thing, if that makes sense. So, like, not everyone's going to be a runner, not everyone's going to be a cyclist, not everybody likes the cold, snowy weather. So,
yeah, definitely
like, don't try one thing and be like, oh, no, I'm not an exercise person, or, oh, no, I'm not a sports person. Because, I mean, sport and exercise is so varied, and definitely for people with disabilities, it's even more varied. Because, for example, somebody who struggles a lot with their mobility, just something like a walk around your local park, that's exercise. It might not be for somebody who runs marathons for a living. A walk around their local park probably wouldn't feel like exercise. But for somebody who, is at a less capable level, it is exercise, if that makes sense. And, I mean, like, also for people with MS, look at your symptoms and what works for you. So, for example, I have foot drop. I don't know how Kadina Cox runs. Like, I struggle to walk. I struggle to go upstairs. I don't know how she runs.
Uses the foot drop to propel herself almost.
My running days are long behind me. Like, I don't even run for food or transport anymore.
Likewise.
So like, I could never be a runner, but clearly for Kadina, she can run. So good for her.
Yeah, it's great for her, isn't it?
But yeah, definitely find your thing that you like doing, and certainly if it's something that helps your MS symptoms, like alleviates some of your symptoms, then that's even better as well. If it's something you enjoy, again, even better. If it's something that's got good views, like the tops of the mountains, that's a good one as well.
That's the best.
That's the best. I can recommend that one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sport and exercise is so varied, and it depends from person to person, really, what you can do, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about managing your expectations and your attitude towards it. I will, by my own admission, admit that historically I had a very toxic relationship with working out, putting undue pressure on myself. So it was very hard for me to pick apart what I could do after diagnosis without comparing it to what I did pre-diagnosis. So like when I was on my DMTs, I was really not well and I was really struggling. And so just things like you say, walking the dog, doing some low impact yoga, all of a sudden my quality of life started improving again. And I was like, okay, so I don't have to push myself to the point where I'm having an absolute meltdown because my body can't really handle that right now. But as long as I'm moving and I'm doing something, it actually hugely improves my overall prognosis and ability.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I certainly found after being diagnosed with MS. I was like constantly for the first probably 6-7 months comparing me now, well me then, to pre-MS me. And I was just beating myself up like, oh, why can't I snowboard as well as I used to? Oh, why can't I manage 5 gym sessions a week and not be tired? Like I was doing 3 last summer. I was doing 3 sessions and basically sleeping. I went round and round in circles. Like why can't I do this? Why can't I do this anymore? Why, And it took, I can't remember who it was, but it took someone kind of basically giving me that kind of theoretical slap and being like, look, you are a different person. Your body has changed. Your body has suffered some crazy things. There's no way that you can do what you used to do on the same level you did before. And then that kind of almost flipped a switch in my head. And I was like, okay, forget old me, forget me before I had MS. Let's just focus on how I can be a better me today than I was yesterday. And that's pretty much the point I'm at now. I very recently just got to the point where I've stopped comparing my snowboarding to some of my able-bodied friends snowboarding, and I'm now at a point where I'm comparing my snowboarding to other para-snowboarders, and I feel like that's a massive kind of mindset change for the better, and I'm hoping it will kind of keep me going, because you've got to be obviously push yourself and challenge yourself and try and not beat yourself physically, but like be better than yourself yesterday. But at the same time, when you've got a condition like MS or any disability, you've got to be realistic as well, because you're never going to be, like you said earlier, your leg's never going to be full strength again. So if you're constantly trying to compare your leg to how it used to be, you're going to be disappointed. If that kind of makes sense. So yeah, definitely kind of have that. You've got to have that reality check. And I think for me, it came probably a bit later than it should have. Like I don't think I'd quite kind of mentally got kind of the, oh, I've got MS. Okay, fine, carry on. I don't think I'd properly kind of appreciated what MS was and what MS came with until a few months down the line when I was at that point where I couldn't do what I used to do and I was just frustrated. So, yeah, there we go.
Okay, absolute last question, and then I promise I'll release you.
That's all right. I'm enjoying it. It's nice.
Is there anyone you take inspiration from, whether it's a public figure, your parents? Like, is there someone who kind of like helps you to sort of, I don't know, refine your goals, objectives, whatever?
Yes. So I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, I can't narrow it down to one. I've got 3 people.
Yeah, you go for 2. Oh, 3. Excellent.
3.
She's greedy. Love it.
3. Yeah. A hat trick of people.
We love a bit of greed. Go for it.
A bit of greed. Okay, so the first one is obviously, you've mentioned her already. The one and only Hadina Cox.
Casey. All the hype.
I mean, she's amazing.
She's incredible.
She is obviously a black woman. Her hair is incredible. But yeah, she is a black woman athlete, Paralympian. Like, wow, like yeah, she's amazing. And also she's got MS, and I remember vividly the conversation I was having with somebody, my friend who snowboards. He's also a GP, a doctor, and we were going up a lift, and I was telling him about my weird symptoms, and he turned around to me and we were on the lift together. He kind of looked at me. He went, that sounds a bit like MS, and I was like, okay. And he went, hey, you could be a para snowboarder, like Kadina Cox. And we were both like, oh my god, yeah. And then at that point, I was like, okay, right, I'm going to go to the hospital in a couple of days. But yeah, Kadina
And that's
Cox,
literally what led to your diagnosis?
pretty much, yeah.
That's a story.
Yeah, straight up, I was like, right from the beginning, I was like, okay, if I've got MS, that's it. I'm becoming a para snowboarder. Because I knew about Kadina and I knew her story. Also, she's a coloured athlete. She's a black athlete. And, I mean, in Great Britain, there are not many. Well, I mean, there's quite a few black people and coloured people. Oh, God, I'm going to sound rude here. But in terms of actually athletes really representing their country, there aren't many. And I've had a little look through the GB Snow Sports archives. And yeah, I think I'm actually their first Asian athlete, which is really cool. Anyway,
making strides left, right, and centre.
Kadina, absolute huge inspiration because she has MS and she is of coloured descent. So great. The other one is Brenna. We've mentioned her, Brenna Huckabee.
Yeah. She seems amazing. I follow her.
Do you really? She is incredible. Paralympian from the US. She's got 2 really cute little girls, and she is straight up, I'm not a parent myself, but some of her content on parenting is just brilliant. And I don't know how she is training full-time, and obviously disabled. She's above knee amputee, so that in itself has got a lot of things going on with it, and bringing up 2 little humans. I don't know how she does it. She is Superwoman. And we've already mentioned this, but in the last year, she took on the IPC. She took the IPC to court, and she won.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of insane.
Won a gold medal at the Paralympics. That is just incredible.
That kind of brings it full circle for me with you saying before about the hate comments of almost just shove your success in their face sort of thing. It's
absolutely
if there's any way to prove why you should have been there in the first place and prove
it's by winning. Absolutely. I mean, I was actually up at 4 a.m. that morning on the live stream watching, and I don't know if it was the sleep deprivation, but I had tears in my eyes when she won that gold, because I just knew that was just incredible. And then
don't speak to me about sleep deprivation.
She's amazing, and actually she's really lovely as well. Sometimes people who are at that god status are a little bit they don't talk to mere mortals. But actually this season I met her, and obviously I was very much the new kid on the block, still very much the new kid on the block, not really sure what I'm doing on a snowboard yet. And she actually, my first race, I think I saw her. She was like, "How did you do?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I came 4th. Yeah, I came 4th in my first race." And she was like, "Oh great, well done! That's so good." And I was just like, "Oh my god, Brenna Huckabee just told me well done," and I'm like a mere mortal. And yeah, she's just really lovely as well, and she's really approachable, and yeah, she's just. I love you, Brenna. If you ever
very
watch
much
this,
going to Greek mythology times with the common folk meeting the heroes in real life in shining armor.
Absolutely. And then my number 3, again we've mentioned her already, is a lady from France who is called Cecile, and she has MS. And I was put in touch with her by one of my teammates. He put me in touch with Cecile in December last year, which was right when I was going through my really bad relapse. I've just had my steroids. I could not even walk along the landing. I was really, really poorly, and I was like, I want to be a para snowboarder. I've got MS. And my friend Andy put me in touch with Cecile, and she just gave me a load of inspirational kind of you've got this. Keep on going. Every day is going to be different. You know, MS is a B word.
That it is. That it is.
Yeah, and yeah, again, I met her in November, and she was just like, "I'm so glad you've done it. You've become a para snowboarder. You're on the circuit." And yeah, I mean, she obviously having MS, she's quite she's had MS, I think something like 18 years,
Yeah.
which is a very long time. And she is in the LL1 category, so she's more impaired than I am. But just kind of for me, just knowing in like the back of my mind that if my MS does get worse, then there's still a place for me within para snowboard, and that's what I feel like Cecile has done for me. Is that like I'm obviously right at the beginning of my MS journey. I'm in LL2, and she's nearing the end of her competitive career, and she's LL1, and you know we've both still got MS, and yeah, it's really cool. And again, she won a gold. She fought the IPC this year along with Brenna, and yeah, she won a gold medal as well. So amazing. Yeah, the fact that they both fought the IPC and they both came home with a gold medal, like I couldn't be happier for the pair of them. And in terms of them inspiring me, like yeah, they honestly they don't even know how much they've inspired me. It's just incredible.
Ah, yeah. Who knows? In the very unlikely circumstance that they see this video, maybe they will.
Yeah.
No, you're like, no, please no. I have to see these people.
Massive. Yeah, they I think they know I'm like their massive fangirl. But yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
All I can hope is that maybe one day, I don't know, someone might find me inspiring. Who knows? Probably not though.
Hey, it's like you say, it's you know, if Cecile is sort of almost providing like a proof of concept, future proofing for you, and like we kind of covered earlier, you know, every single one of you as athletes, as women, as competitors, you're breaking ground that other people just haven't really broken ground on before. Like you are those sort of, whether you like the term or not, and whether it puts pressure on you or not, you're trailblazing because you're setting the railroad down for others to follow. So I think whether it's in a small way or a big way, your influence will be felt down the line, and I think that will ultimately be part of your legacy. Obviously, I hope there's lots and lots of shiny things in your legacy too, and I will be cheering you all damn way, whether you like it or not. But I think regardless, you are contributing both to your sport, to the overall awareness, and to people with MS everywhere. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's just a great thing. Like, it's so amazing to see, and I'm totally gonna book a flight and come watch sometime. I think. I think there's a group of us.
I am very much at the beginning of my journey with para snowboard, and I wouldn't be here doing para snowboard if it wasn't for some incredible people that fought to get para snowboard into the Paralympics. And fought to make it what it is today. I like I said to you before, I'm the new kid on the block. I've just come into it this year, but there have been some incredible people. Amy Purdy, who's just retired, she's a US para snowboarder, double below-knee amputee. She was the first para snowboarder I ever knew existed. She's incredible, and she actually fought to get para snowboard into the Paralympics. And here we are 3 Paralympics later. It's a completely different sport than it was when it started. And it's incredible. It's amazing. It's
when
really
you think
cool
about it, 3 Paralympics, it's the span of what, 12 to 16 years?
Yeah, not very long at all when you actually think about it. Like, there are people on the GB team who have been to more Paralympics than para snowboard has.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane when you think about it. That's ridiculous. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, the para snowboard kind of community, they're a really cool bunch to be part of. Like, they're amazing people. They're amazing snowboarders. It's just amazing.
It's so nice to hear, and I can't wait to watch more and more of it, and I hope other people will as well. It's a great sport. And Yeah, just thank you so much. Like, this
Oh,
is
you're welcome.
totally, like, off the cuff, sort of, like, I'd really like to do this, but is it weird if I'm asking people that I know that I find kind of low-key inspiring to be like, fun to talk about?
Well, no, this is like the first ever podcast I've ever done, so sorry if I, like, gibbered on for hours. Don't tell anyone, sorry.
I stream loads, but, like, yeah... I'm new to streaming. This is the first time I've done a podcast. Podcast in itself is something that is kind of like only really just growing on Twitch. Like it's got a fairly cliquey but very strong following. But
I don't even know what Twitch is.
Exactly. You're live on Twitch right now and you don't even know what it is. It's huge, but it's not mainstream yet. So, like, you know, there are literally people younger than you and I, like in their 20s, who are making millions by streaming online, playing games, doing things that I've just always done and enjoyed. And I've, you know, come across streaming communities, made friends through streaming communities. You know, we've got people elsewise in the community. So I don't know if you know Mark from our group. His boyfriend did a big stream for MS Society, was it?
Okay.
Not last year, the year before, and he raised £1,000, I think, for MS Society. Wow. I've raised about a couple £100 since I've been involved with MS Society's March mashup, which is what you're currently on. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, it's huge in and of itself, but it's again, it's a bubble. So my intention with streaming is just to kind of pierce the bubble a little bit and be like, hey, there's disabled streamers, there's people who their literal only outlet is essentially through this. Like, this is the sum total of the connections that they get. Interestingly enough, there was a really big one recently, and she's now the most subbed woman, the most subbed VTuber, so she doesn't even show her face. She has an avatar, and she has quite a severe disability. She's got like an immune problem that she literally lives in a bubble. She can't leave her home. So, like, her only connection is through her community online, and she's made a life and a career through it, and that's amazing. And that's kind of like the community that I want to be a part of, in terms of, you know, highlighting that there's plenty of us out there. We look and act and do normal things that normal people do, just with some concessions. Yeah, normal people. You know, there's just certain concessions, you know, we have to, you know, work around that. Like, we did a 24-hour stream over the weekend, and I had COVID. It was a really stupid idea, but I literally hadn't left this room for 5 days, and I was like, if I'm not leaving this room, hey, why don't we just do a 24-hour stream? And literally, we got to 15, 16 hours, and I'm like this. I'm shaking like a leaf. My leg is vibrating like it's got an electric current going through it, and I'm like, oh no, it's 6 a.m. and, like, I can't ask anyone for help. Oh no. It's just one of those things, but it was really enjoyable, and people really kind of came out in droves, and it was really nice. We raised some money for charity.
Cool. That's always good.
Yeah, it's always good. And obviously the MS Society is sort of like giving a little shout out about this evening as well, so hopefully once we've posted a video about it, I think I'm going to send them some footage once I've gone through it and stuff, and see what they think of it all, and they might use it when you're doing your ambassadorship or something. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But again, just thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Big Dave on Sunday.
Big Dave on Sunday. Big Dave. I'm so intimidated by Dave. He's such a big guy. By Dave's beard. Yeah, like, it's glorious. It's genuinely glorious.
Majestic.
I'm meeting him for the first time IRL, not this weekend, the weekend after, and I'm so nervous about it. Like, I almost feel like it's going to help to chat to him.
Oh, you're going to be like me when I first met Brenna. I met her in the gym. That's the first time I met her, and I'd forgotten my gym kit, so I was wearing, like, my thermals from snowboarding. Oh, yeah.
It's similar to, I suppose, like I've said before, like, I already enjoy watching snowboarding and stuff, and I've watched it at the Olympics, and that's something I've only got into really in probably the last two or three winter games. Long before I knew you, to then meet someone who's in a sport that I already enjoy watching is cool. I've always been really interested in strongman, so seeing the strides that he's making in strongman, it's going to be really interesting to to hear his stories as well. So Looking
I
forward to
actually
it.
did a bit of strongman training the
Cool.
year before I got MS. Yeah.
Ah,
And like my dad, oh, he's
she
never gonna live this
lifts, she
down.
shreds, she does it all.
I I actually pushed a van the week before my feet went numb. And I was like,
Ah,
Dad, my feet have gone numb. And my dad goes, oh, it's because you pushed that van at the gym. You're so
you trap the
ridiculous.
nerve or something like
You're
that,
doing
yeah.
this strongman training. Like, and I'm a 4'8" small Asian woman. Of course I can do strongman training. Push a van, feet go
Well, yeah, you've
numb.
got a really good low centre of gravity. I was
You
always
think it's
told.
a trapped nerve and it's actually MS. Oh,
I literally had the same thing, that they thought it was a trapped nerve from like squatting and stuff, and that was the problem, and it obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
But
We
yeah,
thought I'd done it pushing a van. Like, so ridiculous.
but yeah. I mean, you mentioned about your height there, but like low centre of gravity helps when it comes to weightlifting. Like I literally was told the reason I could squat so much was because I didn't have very far to go down. Because I'm an absolute short ass. Is like literally like when they work out the calculations in terms of like how the load bearing is and where it sits. If you're shorter, if your femurs are physically shorter, you can lift heavier because they don't have as much pressure going on them. So it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense then. Oh,
Okay.
there we go. So don't have to be a tallie to get involved in strongman. Just makes lifting the Atlas boulders a bit harder.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're good fun though.
Yeah, they're a bit scary though. Like especially going back to Dave, because he broke his hand in his last competition, I think, or broke a finger or something. Because I remember seeing he dropped it and he recovered it. He still managed to pick it up and put it on, but he's like, oh yeah, totally knackered my hand. Like I was screwed the next day. Like I couldn't compete properly because I'd broken it or something. It's like,
The idea of dropping one of them on your foot. No.
Oh, no thanks. No
Yeah, no.
thanks. There wouldn't be a foot, there'd just be jam where the foot used to be.
And then you could come and join Para-Snowboard.
Woo! See, it all comes round. It's the great circle of life.
Strongman seems to break everybody, and then ridiculous.
I think we've actually got a commenter in the chat who's saying same here from squatting too. So maybe they've had a similar experience.
What?
It's
Of being short?
I don't know. I think it's someone who's followed through the MS Society link, so potentially a fellow MSer who has been misdiagnosed as having a trapped nerve. I'm going to assume we might be mistaken there, but that's how I'm interpreting that from what we were saying. Quite possibly. DRC Aaron, make yourself known.
I feel like that should become like MS's like new catchphrase. It's not a trapped nerve, it's actually MS.
It's not a trapped nerve, just your immune system thinks that your nerves are really super tasty and it's having a munch.
Oh, yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like when you actually say it like that, it's like, ooh, that's actually pretty grim. Like,
That's usually how I try and joke about it, because I find it's oh yeah, he's from the MS Society, so I think he's agreeing that he's had a similar experience, that he was told it was a trapped nerve.
yeah.
It's such a common thing. It's quite
so
ridiculous, really. I think, again, there's an education element there that's maybe some of the people on front lines who are doing screening questions aren't medical professionals or not educated to the degree that they need to be to rule that out. I was very lucky that...
There's also, I think, certainly for me, I was in Austria when I kind of had my issues, but I think that the kind of Britishness about us, when we're like, oh, no, it's probably nothing, I'm fine, I'm not going to go to the hospital for another 3 weeks, it's probably fine. Like, actually, no, if parts of your body suddenly go numb, it is not fine.
That is not normal.
No, but the kind of Britishness about me, I was like, you'd be right, I'll give it
I was
another
the same.
couple of weeks.
I only went because my girlfriend literally went crazy and said...
like, you don't want to trouble anyone, like, it's probably nothing, I'm probably just overreacting. There's that inbuilt kind of, like, thing about us that, we're all very apologetic about it. But actually, no, somebody needs to be like, no, actually, if part of your body goes numb, like, that is serious, get to the hospital.
Yeah, it was only when my numbness started to spread up, so it started in my leg, but by the time I went to the hospital, it had reached right up to my armpit, and literally, it felt like someone had taken a wire and literally garroted me down the middle because I could feel, so like if I ran my finger across my chest, normal sensations on one side, as soon as I cross the absolute parallel line down the left-hand side, all of a sudden on the left-hand side it burned, it stinged, it felt like electricity, and I couldn't feel any sensations properly. I could feel that I was like there was pressure there, but it felt wrong. That was my best description. I'm like trying to describe this to a doctor, and like, what do you mean wrong? I was like, I don't bloody well know. It feels like someone's got an electric charge on me, and I'm going through bouts of hot and cold, and every time you touch me I want to scream or hit you. So you explain that to me.
Mine started in my feet and again spread up to like the bottom of my ribs, and it only got to the point when I couldn't feel temperature. And like obviously I was snowboarding, I was in the mountains, and it got to the point where we got on a heated chairlift, and my friend was like, "Oh yes, heated chairlift. This is just what we need today on this cold day." And I was kind of sitting there like, "You what?" Like, it's heated? And he's like, yeah. Can you not feel it? And I was like, no, I can't. And that day it was quite cold, and I got home and literally my whole lower body was like stone cold, but I could not have told you that I was cold, but my skin to the touch was like so cold. I was like, oh, this is not good.
Crikey. My God.
You know, living in the mountains snowboarding, this is not good.
So no, you want to feel when your appendages are freezing and potentially going to drop off, you know. That's an important thing to be able to feel.
I often joke that I may well get frostbite in my feet and I would not have a clue.
Until after the fact.
Yeah, no. Which is actually quite funny because the other day, very slushy snow at the moment, very wet, and my snowboard boots got completely soaked. And I couldn't feel it. And it wasn't until I took my boots off.
I saw that. Yeah, you posted about it, didn't you?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Because like my sock was soaking wet. And snowboard boots have like an outer and then an inner, and then obviously you've got your foot in your sock. So the fact that my sock was soaking wet meant it had got through my entire snowboard boot, and I had not a clue. Literally no idea.
I can see that becoming a problem, you know, coming out from the slopes and you've got a casual bit of trench foot going on. It's like, oh, yum. Nice. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah. Be careful of that, please.
I will be.
Your legs are important now. You're an athlete, you know, it's an asset to your country.
Well, no, it's funny because I think I said this to someone. I said, I'm going to get frostbite and end up having to have my foot amputated. But it's okay, because I could still be a para-snowboarder.
I'll just be LL1 then. Yeah.
No, I'd still be LL2. It's really
funny. Would you? Oh, because it's below the knee. Is that where the definition is?
So how it's kind of assessed is on functional joints. So ankle function is kind of the assessment criteria for LL2. And LL1 is whether you've kind of got knee function. So my knees are fine, but my right ankle doesn't dorsiflex.
Right.
Yeah, that one, where it goes up. And I've got not much kind of control over, like my foot kind of just does this, just kind of flaps around.
Okay.
So that is why they were like, okay, yeah, LL2. So yeah, below knee amputees are also LL2. So some of the girls I race against are amputees, are below knee amputees. And yeah, they're LL2. And then you've got LL1, which is kind of, a more serious disability or loss of knee joint. So Brenna, for example, is LL1 because she's a above knee amputee.
Yeah.
So okay. It's all very interesting. Classification is.
I feel like I'm learning things. I'm being educated.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nina. It's been genuinely such a pleasure to speak to you, and I really hope that we can meet in person at some point when you're GB way. When
I'm back in the country,
yeah, that generally makes things a tiny bit easier, particularly in COVID. Although I would never turn down an opportunity to go back to Austria. It's a country I love a lot, so I'm sure at some point we'll see you hitting the slopes.
Awesome.
But yeah, hope to catch up with you soon.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
Awesome. Fun.
Really appreciate it, and you look after yourself, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
Much love. See you later.
Love. Bye.
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 What an absolute diamond that woman is. What an absolute diamond. Like, oh my God. She is fantastic. and just such an inspiring person as well. Like, she's so lovely, so humble. Yeah, nothing but love for her, and I truly wish her the best with her competitions and everything in the future, and I really hope I get to see her at some point. Oh, I'm so grateful she came on. She's so sweet. She's so lovely. I was ready